The Jerd Nation Podcast.
Welcome again to GGTV's The Jerd Nation Podcast. This episode, we're going to talk about toys. What were our favorite toys growing up that they don't have around here anymore that we think would be a great reboot? So I'm just going to get right into it, man. Mark, what's your favorite toy? And don't say Nick Foles.
I knew that was coming. To be honest, I mean, I cannot find these anymore. Do you remember when we were kids, like those little army men? Like the ones with maybe like 2 or 3 inches tall. We used to, when we were kids, we could go to the grocery store and you could go through the aisles and get the army men.
The green ones? Those. The green ones?
Yeah. Yeah, those were awesome because I was looking for some of those for my son the other day, and I was like, this would be some really cool toys for him to have, because I was like, this is toys when I was his age, but I'd never see those anymore.
What about you, Sammy? What's your favorite toy growing up?
Well, my favorite toy growing up and what toy I'd like to see come back are 2 different conversations.
Okay.
Of course, my favorite toy, as everybody knows, is Ninja Turtles. Nothing better than a Ninja Turtle. But the toys that I would like to see come back are the Silverhawks.
Yes.
I feel like they were way ahead of their time. They had the the click leg action where their wings would pop out. They were all chrome colored and really sleek. They had the birds and the big bird vehicles and stuff. I think that they need to just completely reboot it. Let's bring them back, get the toys back, get the chrome back, and let's get these things on the market so these kids can buy them.
I think that'd be a great reboot. They rebooted the Thundercats sort of, so why not the Silverhawks?
Yeah, I mean, the Thundercats have been done a couple of times. And honestly, I'm kind of surprised that the Silverhawks haven't been redone, just because, they were so different than anything else that was out back then. The characters were they were all different. The characters were really well done. It was, just a mixture of, you had like the Copper Kid and, you had men and women and all of that. It was just a really neat concept, really neat toys. The vintage toys are a mint. If you want to buy them, they are really super expensive. I have the whole set. But no. I would like to see them redone.
I'm going to go ahead and go because I know Cody has a list. My main toy growing up, I wish they would reboot. I loved Micro Machines. Those things were so little and cute, dude. I mean,
I have a lot of Star Wars ones.
Do they still make Micro Machines?
They do. They're not. They're kind of exclusive to what kind, but usually they're movie related.
Okay, well, dang. I mean, I didn't know that, but they had a buttload back, late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
Do y'all remember, Tim, do you remember, and I'm just going to ask you this because a lot of people don't remember these. It was like little plastic, like what it's what I thought Mark was going to say, but it was like little PVC plastic men, and some of them had like swords and guns, and some were in scuba gear, and they were called Guts. Do you remember those?
Guts. I would have to look at them to see if I recognize them.
I would like to see them bring those back just because they were so unique. But if you think about it, check those out.
Is that an acronym also?
No, I don't think so.
Why does that sound familiar?
Yeah, check that out real quick. They had all kinds of them.
Oh, yeah, hang on. Like that?
Yeah. But there was those, and there was ninjas, and there was a keto force, and like just all kinds of different ones.
Because I always recognize them by how they look. I never really remember the names. All right, Cody, what's your toy that you loved playing with growing up that you would like to see come back?
I don't know of any that I would want to see come back, but because most of the stuff I like is still around or they reissue them. But man, to me, the one toy stands above all. There's more to it than meets the eye. I think it's just hard to beat the Transformers, man. Like, just look at this thing. This thing was designed in the 80s, and it still looks badass. I played with Transformers a lot with my dad. Broke some of them, unfortunately. Sorry, Dad. But yeah, I've always loved Transformers, and I'm really glad that they still reissue them from time to time, because the design of them is so simple but so cool, and the box art on it is just absolutely crazy to me, that because it really pops. Like when when you see a Transformer, at least the 80s ones. But yeah, man, I think Transformers are just the top of the line toys as far as what you can get.
Yeah, the Transformers is a great toy franchise. They came out with the movie, and that just reinvigorated everybody, even from the 80s to now. And it's because those movies, at least for me, the first two movies were fantastic. But yeah, Transformers, yeah, there's no doubt, dude. It's a great franchise.
I think that's the one thing is, as much as being a Transformers fan, a lot of us do kind of hate on some of the Michael Bay films. I love the first one. Second one was a little questionable, but it was still enjoyable. That's the one thing the biggest positive I will say is that because of Michael Bay, I still have Transformers around, and and I think that means more to people like my dad, because I remember when I was a kid, I would get up, and my dad, he had all the seasons of the 80s one on DVD. And he would go up and get up early at like 5:30 in the morning for PT. And he'd wake me up, and he'd be like, all right, watch some Transformers before you go to school and all that. And I would always watch an episode or two. And it was just so, like, it really clings to you as a kid. Like, that there's something so simple. Just the idea of you have a big freaking robot that turned into a Mack truck, and or like Soundwave. Like Soundwave is one of the coolest looking toys ever, but he's so dated because he just turned into a big freaking cassette player.
Right? Yeah, I remember that. And I don't think anybody disliked Optimus Prime either. Everybody, and the guy who overdoes voiceovers, his voice,
Peter Cullen.
Yeah, he is just that voice is fantastic. What was funny about the 80s cartoon was Megatron was a gun, right?
Yeah, it was so weird because he would like transform into a gun, and then Starscream would shoot with him. It was like it was so weird. But I remember there was such a big deal. That's the one toy they won't reissue. Like Hasbro won't reissue it because it looks like a real freaking gun. Like,
and I can attest because I have the original.
Oh, do you?
And yeah, like if you don't know what it is, you would think it was a real gun because it even
really
the weight of it even feels like a real gun.
That's the funny thing is there's a story I watch. I'm sure you guys have watched The Toys That Made Us on Netflix. There was a guy that I think he was going to Hasbro to show them the toy, or it was a showing where he was going to show Megatron. And the security literally forced him to transform it into robot and out of gun because they were so convinced that it was a real freaking gun that he had in his suitcase.
I wonder what it looked like. Was it like probably a Desert Eagle?
A Walter P-38.
Yeah, see, that's what I knew it was Walter P something. I couldn't.
Huh. Yeah, pull it up, Google it, and look at it real quick, Tim, because if you haven't seen it, like, you take that and you take the stickers off of it.
And keep in mind, they didn't have the orange cap on it.
Really? Yeah, no orange cap.
There was no orange cap on the gun.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, oh my.
Yeah,
I forgot it looked like that.
But I think that's the cool thing is like a lot of people. There's like some of the older generation. They're kind of like, there's some of them that are like, I hate that kids these days, they just have rehashed stuff of what we had and all that. But for me, I love it because otherwise I wouldn't, like when I have kids, if they pick up a Transformer or pick up something that I had as a kid, I'm not going to be mad about it. I'm going to think it's cool that it's still around. There's so many toys of mine that I had as a kid, or that the worst is my dad loves making me feel bad about it. He loves going, oh, you like that toy, huh? Guess what? I had it and you broke it when you were 4.
You know, another toy I was thinking about, I just remembered. Do you guys remember? Well, you will, Sammy. They made the 12-inch solid rubber, like the Ric Flairs, the
LJ, they're called
figurines.
LJNs.
Are they okay? I didn't know what they were called then. I remember they were just like the Hulk
Yeah.
Hogan, Roddy Piper, Ric Flair. I don't know who else.
Andre,
But they were a foot tall.
Afro Andre.
Yeah, they were a foot tall, full, just solid rubber. They were heavy duty. Do you remember those?
Oh yeah, I never had any of them, but I know what you're talking about, and now they're super expensive.
Yeah, man, like LJNs. It's so weird that like they're just rubber and they don't move. You can't do anything with them.
No.
They're not like the Hasbros, but they go for more than the Hasbros.
Yeah, the Hulk just stays like this. That's all he does.
Yeah, the same thing with the Macho Man, and Andre just stands like this.
Hey, another set of toys that could use a reboot, but it'll never happen because it would be a little hard. Tim, do you remember Dino Riders?
Dino Riders. Let me look again. Dino Riders. Yeah, I think so.
It's like men and aliens would get dinosaurs and put armor on them and
Yes.
them.
Yep.
The toys that they made for those were just so freaking over the top. You had, your T-Rex was about this tall, and it took batteries and it would walk. And then you had all the pieces that went on it, and then all the guys that went inside it. And you had like that and the Triceratops and the Brontosaurus, and like they made all kinds of them. And that's something like they're incredibly rare, hard to find, and super expensive. But that would be something that would be awesome if they could find a way to bring it back. I think would be a little hard, but that's another one that could use a reboot.
You can't forget about either, because they've been around since 1993, and I've watched the first episode on a Saturday morning. Power Rangers, you have to throw them up there.
Power Rangers is just a ripoff of Voltron.
Voltron, yeah.
And Voltron really was a ripoff of
what
were the big robots, you know what I'm talking about?
The Shogun ones, or like
Shogun.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of the progression of that. So that's why I never really got on the whole Power Rangers wagon, because it's just there's nothing really original there.
G.I. Joe did a really good job of adapting with the times too, because they went from having those big freaking dolls to making the little small action figures. And man, there's so many vehicles. They started reissuing them. I saw a Cobra Hiss tank and Walmart the other day, or actually it was earlier today. I saw them and stuff, and they were around when I was a kid too, because they started reissuing them. And I remember that was when I lived on base, and my dad, we would go to the BX, and they would always have, like, I had a Cobra Commander, Snake Eye, Storm Shadow, like all of them, man. And I had a lot of the cool vehicles. I had, like, my favorite one I don't know what the name of it was, but it was like this sand brown, like this khaki brown helicopter, and it had this little throttle thing on the side of it. And you put your thumb up and you would do it, and it would make the propeller spin, and I would just push it as hard as I could, and that thing would go freaking flying, man.
When they came out with the bases were huge.
Oh, yeah.
There's not a toy today that touches the amount of work it went into manufacturing the USS Flag. I mean, that thing is like 8 feet long.
That's the one they had on Comic Book Men, right?
Yeah, I mean, like it really is a feat of toy manufacturing that they could put something like that even
and
together.
Sell it to the masses, like make multiples.
I mean, the USS Flag is that in itself is iconic to G.I. Joe. Just there'll never be anything that tops the USS Flag.
I think Skeletor's Castle Grayskull. You got to talking to the Cobra, didn't you?
Yeah.
And there came with some green ooze, didn't it?
Yeah, that was the slime pit.
Yeah,
the slime pit sells for so much money. Just if you have a container of it that's been unopened, people sell it for like hundreds and hundreds of dollars. It's insane. Just the slime that came with it.
Well, Masters of the Universe, that's what made them so cool. Was like each individual one was an individual in itself. Like it's it may have been a little generic from the waist down and the arms out. But like the chest pieces and the weapons and, what the action figures actually did in themselves, you had guys that were water guns and guys that just
Yeah,
anything
the
you can think
stinky
of.
one. What was the one that smelled?
Stinkor, and man, like that's what's crazy is like you get one of those 30 years later, it still smells like shit. No joke. Somewhere at my dad's, I've got a hoard of Masters of the Universe toys, and I probably got 3 or 4 Stinkors, and I had them in a box. And I opened that box up one day and it wafted out. I'm like, what the hell died in there, man? And it was just those Stinkor toys just permeated the whole box.
Well, guys, that was our episode for your favorite toy growing up that isn't around anymore and they should reboot. So, again, as always, thank you for watching the Jerd Nation podcast here on Geek Gorilla TV. We'll see you next time. Get out of here. All right, good. We're good. Yeah.